Hello and welcome everyone to episode number 30 of Deep Point with GillyCricket. Usually what we have discussed so far in this series or in these episodes is the actual game in itself. We have discussed the playing combinations of the Indian team. We've discussed uh, the strengths and weaknesses of a particular player, like how last week was a deep dive into Hardik Pandya's batting. It's another thing that after that show, Hardik Pandya scored runs, and I'm sure some people were asking me, "Oh, you criticized him and he scored runs." Well, I don't think there was anything wrong in it. What we pointed out were some hard numbers due to which he had been struggling, and credit to him that he still scored runs. In a nutshell, so far this show has been about question and answers on a lot of things related to the game of cricket or the playing aspect of it. Today is slightly different because today we look at the administrative side of things. We have discussed tactics, we have discussed techniques, we have discussed matchups, but discussing administrative side of things of the sport is something that we have not done before, and I feel there is no better time than to do this because the World Cup's nearby, and a lot of Indian fans are feeling the frustration of not being able to book tickets, of not being able to book accommodations in different cities if they want to travel, etc., etc. A few people have come in already and they've sent in their regards. Robin Kumar is there. Hello, Paji, kaise ho? Robin, I'm very good. Good to see you after a long time on cricket.com. I believe you went away for a few exams and now you're back. Good to see you. Vasant's there. Hi, Vasant. Hope you enjoy this show. Chuchant's here. And Chuchant is someone who was actually asking me in one of the last episodes if I've read the Sharda Ugra article and what are my thoughts on it. So, that gave me the idea that we might as well have an episode on this wherein I'll discuss my points, I'll discuss my views, and at the same time, I'll have a conversation with all of you and take in your points as well about how the game is administrated in the country. Visvesh Parmeswaran is there. Hi, Visvesh. Good to see you. Uh, so all of us know already that there's been a huge uproar over the availability of tickets. Firstly, the schedule came out very late. Then when the schedule came out, there were changes made to the schedule with 8 matches being rescheduled. And now when the tickets have come out, people are unable to book tickets because not a lot of tickets went on sale. And yesterday BCCI came forward and announced that 4 lakh tickets will go on sale for the league matches. I'm not sure if it encompasses the tickets for the 10 warm-up games as well, but on an average, the figure comes out to around somewhere between 7 to 8,000 per game. If we are to divide 4,000 tickets into those number of games, and I'm sure the way it is divided, a large chunk of tickets will come for non-India games or for teams featuring. With no disrespect to these teams, with teams featuring like Netherlands, Bangladesh, and others, because it's difficult to fill up stadiums for them. However, when I checked on Book My Show the last time, Netherlands versus Bangladesh in Kolkata was also sold out, which I don't believe can actually happen because Eden Gardens is the second largest stadium in terms of capacity in the roster of venues, and there's no way 66,000 tickets get sold just like that. So there is that. So the question that comes up is that why weren't these 4 lakh tickets made available in the first go? Was the idea that these tickets will be kept for others and for all the babus, as you might want to call it, and maybe uh, redistribute them amongst all the municipalities and everything. But now that there is significant outrage, there is at least something for the fans. I also want to let you guys know who are watching right now that I will also be adding a colleague of mine who's just joined us at cricket.com. He's a very good writer. He's also a very good student of the game, I believe, because a lot of his writing is is actually involving a lot of deep diving into a lot of issues. And it's not just entirely the cricketing aspect, it is also about the historical aspect. We recently did a piece about the history of Asia Cup, and Gaurav had a very good piece to write on it. So do read that piece, and I'll be adding Gaurav later on to discuss all the issues. But just wanted to give you guys a disclaimer of sorts and let you know that there will not just be me today on the show. There will be someone else also. Uh, Chuchan's asking me, Paji, do you really enjoy going to the Indian stadiums? I found those facilities extremely below par. So one of the promises that I've made to myself in the last year and a half from the beginning of 2022 is that I really don't want to go and watch, I pay and watch any game at the Indian venues. The last game, at least as long as it's a limited overs game or an IPL game, if I want to watch, I'll probably watch a test match because the crowds are lesser and the washrooms don't get as dirty. The last game that I watched in India while having to pay for the ticket was the Mohali test match where Virat Kohli played his 100th game. But yes, the facilities are poor, and sadly, uh, it is poor despite having so much money. I mean, the amount of money that no board can ever imagine. No, there are very few sporting bodies in the world that can imagine the amount of money that BCCI has. Really, and people think because of this that cricketers in India are in general very rich, but that's probably the case only for 10% of the cricketers, those who play India and in the IPL. 90% of the contracted cricketers with associations and the BCCI don't play in the IPL, and they really don't earn as much, and they don't even get the salary hikes which people otherwise get in their normal jobs. And this is something that I found out from Sharda Ugra's article in the Karema. It's a very good piece. It's a long piece. Uh, you will need to take out some time to read out that piece. But if you are an Indian fan who's invested into the game, I really think that you need to read that piece to get some idea of the massive corruption that is at play in the BCCI at all levels. It's at all levels. Shalaman comes in and says, "With great power comes great responsibility." Does BCCI know this quote? I don't think so, but I'll be adding Gaurav very soon to discuss all of this. Pranav Anand's come in and said, "Most frustrating thing is BCCI's indifference regarding the mess. The World Cup should have been the highest priority, but it seems like they feel they aren't answerable and the main stakeholder taken for granted." Very right. And one of the reasons that they don't feel that they are answerable is because they know that fans will still queue up. They know in any other country, I don't know, or in any other sport, there are some fans who would have probably thought of not booking tickets at all. But people are so passionate about the sport that they really want to endure the risk of a stampede, the risk of waiting in online queues and otherwise to watch their favorite cricketers, the risk of watching day long games without having access to clean washrooms, without having access to affordable drinking water, and without having access to good food. You pay an exorbitant amount of money for very bad food. But I think they know that cricket is pretty much like a drug in this country, and that is why they are indifferent towards it. And yeah, I mean, I don't know who really to blame. I mean, uh, a very idealistic point of view would say that maybe fans are to be blamed as well because they allow themselves to be treated like that. But I'm really not sure if that is the best way to look at it, because when you are attached to something or when you are attached to a sport and you have your emotions attached to it, you are what you've been watching the sport while growing up, it's very difficult to then be very logical or rational about the treatment that you get. It comes with time. I remember me. I was 15 years old when the 2011 World Cup was happening, and I really wanted to travel across the country and watch India games, but I couldn't. Uh, and it's not that by that time I hadn't really watched a game in stadiums. I had, but I was still willing to do it. So maybe the love and the passion of Indian fans outweighs everything else, and the BCCI knows that. That is why there is no incentive to make things better, because they know that fans will keep coming in. It's as simple as that. Uh, sports fan says, what prompted BCCI to suddenly release these 4 lakh tickets? Think mostly it is cool down. It is cool down increased to cool down increased outrage against BCCI. Shame they kept these huge amount of tickets with themselves. It is shameful and disappointed. At least. Chuchant again not holding back. Is it actually BCCI versus fans or the Motabhai versus fans? You know who that Motabhai is. Sachin Mundal says BCCI just wants to make money from cricket. They don't care about fans. Uh, Yep. Sachin Upadhyay, both the team and the board are underprepared for the World Cup. I think the board is more underprepared. The team has been slightly unlucky with injuries, but yes. Uh, Chuchant goes on to ask again: are fans really stakeholder in BCCI? Why would they listen? Do fans get to vote who will be the BCCI secretary or president? Again, this is a very good question. We'll come back to it when Gaurav joins us, because there is a voting process to elect an BCCI president. The state associations come along, but we'll get to that. Viswesh Parmeswaran is there. He's asking: is BCCI the only cricketing board like what it is right now? How are overseas boards? Is it because other boards don't get as much media presence as BCCI? BCCI is like that because of the amount of money that they have, and they know that no one can take that money away from them. And they can literally bully anyone and everyone into doing whatever they want to do. Chris Noon says, just like there needs to be separation of church and state, there needs to be separation of sport and state. Interesting. Uh, Anyway, before I start taking more questions, I'll now be adding Gaurav. Santosh Udappa says 4 lakh tickets overall, but that's hardly 10K tickets per match. That's not significant. Yes, it roughly comes out to around 10 to 15% of each stadium's capacity if we look at an average capacity of every stadium. So yeah, that is that, and it's something that I spoke about. Anyway, now I'm adding Gaurav. Hi, Gaurav.
Hello,
Uh,
hello.
you're making your debut on Deep
Yeah,
Point with GillyCricket. I
yeah.
must say that amongst all the people who work at cricket.com, you've been probably the fastest to make their debut on this show, given how you had joined us very recently. But Gaurav, this is the question by Chuchan that I lied, and I want you to take this question and answer this. It's about: do fans get to vote who will be the BCCI secretary or president? So why don't you explain to the viewers who are watching that how does a BCCI president get elected? Like who does vote for it?
So, I mean, it's a very long process because there are 38 state aso matlab,
Associations.
yeah, and they vote like each of them has a vote, and they all come at the same place. They go in a general meeting, and then they select their BCCI office people, and the president, the secretary, the person who will handle the money. So the entire Apex Council is selected from there, and there are a few other members in that council who come from the outside as well. But mainly it's the state associations who
So
send their presidents, and they are the ones who actually select the BCCI president.
So there are three important posts: the president, the secretary, and the treasurer. Treasurer is
President,
someone who's
yes.
responsible for the money. Earlier, uh, the board presidents used to be very aware of the fact that they have to keep the state associations happy. But because the voting used to be close, these days, especially the last two presidents that have been elected, they have been largely been unanimous, which basically means that almost everyone agreed, and that hasn't really happened. And it's a little surprising because you don't expect all 38 associations to agree on one thing,
Yeah,
right? And
yeah,
it's very.
yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, and the problem is that most of the times the person who is fighting to be a president, I mean, they are either from a different block only, or most of the times we have the presidents getting selected like without any fight in the first place. Like there is no opponent uh, for them. So the problem comes ki it's either one block versus the other, or as in the case of the current BCCI, there is only one block, and that is Jay Shah's block, and so there is no fight at all. Yeah,
Now, a question that has come in: Rohan Patil says BCCI makes close to $1 billion revenue per year. Now, Gaurav, as someone, as how we were discussing off air when we decided to
yeah.
do this show, uh, I want to understand from you how, like, what are the major sources of revenue for BCCI, and how much of it actually comes down to players, how much of it goes to sport associations and everything else.
Sure. So the major sources for BCCI money is the TV rights, and now the streaming rights are also a very big part of it. And apart from that, you have the kit sponsors, you have the trophy sponsors, and you also have the other sponsors on the jersey like Byju's and all. So those become the main source of income for BCCI. And from whatever revenue the BCCI gets in 1 year, 70% of that money goes to the state associations, right? And only around 6 to 7% of that money goes to the domestic players, and around 2 to 3% of that money goes to the international players who earn the most amount of money in like through the BCCI system, and of course the women cricket system is also a small chunk of it. So the most amount of money goes to the state associations, and the problem is that there is hardly any audit of that 70% chunk of money which remains constant each and every year, right? And the yeah.
Before you move forward and we go a little deeper into this, I just want to quote the exact figures. Now I'm quoting Sharda Ugra's article from the Caravan, and it's a very important piece, and I feel it's important to give her the credit because it involved a lot of research. So
Yes.
as per the 2021-2022 balance sheet of the BCCI, the earnings of the income of BCCI is rupees 4,350 0.56 crores. That is the income of BCCI from 2021-2022 as per their balance sheet. This is what the article has. And another thing that you missed out on in terms of BCCI's earnings is that now BCCI will also be earning 38 will also be getting 38.4% of ICC's revenue.
Yes, of course.
No other member of the ICC gets even the double gets a percentage in double digits, but BCCI gets 38.4%. That is how much what BCCI is earning. Jaideep Gajera is there with the exact figure. He says 4350.56 crores. Thank you so much, Jaideep. Really thank you for this help. But yes, now Gaurav, you can move on and you can talk about how that you were talking about how 70% goes to the state association, some percent to the cricketers and everything. So why don't you continue from there?
Yeah, sure. So despite the BCCI earning so much, the issue comes ki who is the one who's earning that money for the BCCI. So we are the fans. We watch the cricket, and we the TV rights money. It's essentially based on the fact that there are 100 crores of Indians who watch cricket. Like our population is even more than that. So even a small chunk of Indians, when they watch cricket, they generate a huge amount of revenue, right? So so BCCI earnings come through that, and of course the players are the brand players are the main brand of the BCCI, and they are the ones who are actually earning the most amount of money. Malab, they are the ones who actually bring the most amount of money, right? Because we are the ones who see them, and they are the ones who actually play that game. But the issue comes here is that, like in other leagues and all, like in the uh, football leagues, 71% chunk of that money goes to the players, like in terms of their wages and the other expenses which are done on them. And in like baseball and all in the states, you have around 48% of the money going to the players. But even when the Indian Premier League is the biggest cricket league in the world, the players earn only around 18% of that money, which is peanuts, right? Because we go to watch Virat Kohli, right? And if Virat Kohli and other players are not the ones who are actually earning the money from there, तो वो पैसा जाता किसके पास है, right? And where does that money goes? And the problem is कि no one asks where that money goes, and because कोई पूछता नहीं है, so there is no one to answer it from the other end. Yeah.
You've raised a very pertinent point here, is that there is no one to ask, and that brings me to my the next thing that I wanted to talk about on the show, is that how uh, the the most influential journalists that are there in the game of uh, cricket, especially in Indian cricket, uh, they stopped asking anything of BCCI. They don't ask about press conferences. They don't ask any other questions. So many of influential journalists have had nothing to say on the mismanagement that has been this World Cup so far in terms of the tickets and facilities. And I personally feel a sense of shock that less than 1 month to go, and there's absolutely zero branding done for the World Cup. And I've seen the 2016 World Cup happen in this country. I've seen the 2011 World Cup happen in this country, and I can assure you, with less than 2 months to go, there was decent enough branding, and people knew that the World Cup was going to happen in the country. Not very long ago, a few days ago, people were still. I've had people see. I'm not talking about fanatics like you or me, or who work in the sport, but the general public. I've had people from general public asking, "Oh, the World Cup's happening in India," and that comes as a surprise to me, because I never thought something like this would happen. Has something like this happened to you?
I mean, like the problem is that, like, when I got to know that the entire World Cup would happen in India, so as a fan, I would thought that I would get a chance to at least visit the different cities where the World Cup is happening and go and see those matches. But the problem is that one, we are not getting the tickets in the first place. The schedule came like so late, and even if we got the tickets, somehow we'll not get any place to stay, like because the tickets came out at such a wrong time, and like there is hardly a 2 or 3 months period like to book those tickets in the first place, right? So the entire dream of watching a home World Cup, traveling to those different places as a fan, and seeing the country also, like along with it, because it's a huge country. And I mean, just think of the fact that one day you are watching a match at Kotla, the other day you are watching a match at Chinna Swami, and a few days after that you are in Chennai, right? So I mean, just think कि कितना मजा आता, like if we would have actually got the chance to go and like be hyped about it and watch the games. But sadly, the board which controls the cricket in India doesn't actually controls it. Like there's a lot of problem there. Yeah.
I've there's some cheekiness going on in the comments. So Rohan's been saying that how can the earnings only be 400 crores, or 4,000, because there's a lot more. So Rohan, the number that we quoted was for the financial year 21-22. It was as per the BCCI balance sheet. We have not made these numbers on our own. This is what we have gotten through the Caravan article, and we are quoting that. Right? We have not done our own calculations. We've just
Yeah.
relied on that. Currently, we are in financial year 23-24, so the numbers would have increased and the figures would have increased. There's been a very good comment and observation by Santosh Udappa, and again, this is something that was also mentioned in the article, and I wanted to bring this up. This is like, also, if you have noticed, couple of previous main sponsors of India have parted way away after just 1 year of contracts. They know it's not benefiting them at all with such heavy spending. Yes, MPL came in and they were supposed to be there for 5 years. Then Dream 11 became a sponsor. There was Vivo also who became a sponsor, or Vivo was the IPL sponsor, not the jersey sponsor.
Yeah. So they were in the Indian Premier League only.
But
Like
yes,
they,
Byju's was there. Byju's
yeah,
left before completing their
Bajaj was there.
contract. Killer
Yeah.
Jeans came in between, and now there's another sponsor. So yes, what Santosh is mentioning, this changeover of jersey sponsors or sponsors on the jersey haven't hasn't happened as quickly as what has happened in the last 5 years, and that is primarily because a lot of sponsors are shifting towards sponsoring the IPL teams. Because in fact, if that's not all, the rights of India matches have also slightly come down. I don't know
Okay.
whether it's because there is cricketing fatigue amongst the audience, or people prefer watching the IPL a lot more. I don't know about that, but even that number has come down slightly.
Yeah.
Santosh Udappa goes on to say, is even Mastercard the title sponsors? Yes,
Yep.
yes. There was Paytm earlier, who was sponsoring the India trophies, and now there is IDFC. So much change of sponsors hasn't really happened in Indian cricket as what has happened right now. Guys, before we move on to discussing a few other topics of the mismanagement in the BCCI, or the lack of administration, because believe me, there are many topics. There are topics such as how there is there are charges of sexual assault on officials in the state associations. There are charges of cash for selection in the state associations. There are many other charges, but before we get to that, to all those who are watching, I just want you guys to share your experiences of trying to book the tickets and how it panned out, and just share your frustrations, because like I've said many times before, this is not really a space where I am the one who only shares his views, or in this case, me and Gaurav are not the only two people. You guys can also share your views, and we'll take that up, because that is what this show is about. Also, to all those who are liking, please like the who are watching, please like the video, and yeah, keep sending in your questions. uh, Santosh Udappa with something else. He says, no, that number as per KSR has gone up. When Star took the rights in 2018, it was about 60 crores per match, and now Viacom have got it at a price of 68 crores per match. Okay, we'll have to do this calculation, but 5 years and just 8 crores up is not something that I would really say has is something that BCCI would have expected. They probably would have liked more, and the jump or the percentage hike in these things has been a lot more. So there's that. Anyone who wants to share their experience of booking the tickets, or get into this. Sarvanan says some state associations, like example in Hyderabad association, there is a lot of corruption. Yes, there is. In fact, uh, as per the rules, the same funds, or the same amount of money is given to each and every state association, regardless of what their expenditure is. And there was a need for audit, as per the Lodha committee, which was appointed by the Supreme Court. And Gaurav, do you want to share the findings of those audit reports?
Yeah, so I mean, Sharda Ura talks about them with film. There's a lot of flavor when she talks about the figures and like where those money, where that money was spent actually. So in the case of Uttarakhand, and it was a famous khabar as well, everywhere. So
Yeah, I
they
just want to,
yeah.
before you go on to talk about that story about Uttarakhand, again, very important to give credit to someone who did it. It's that story was broken down, was broken by by Jamie Alter, again, who's been someone
Yes.
who has been a part of cricket.com and has done series for us, and that story in itself was quite revealing. But now go on.
Yeah, so I mean, like if a state association is spending 22 lakhs on bananas and 35 lakhs on bottled water, then I mean, it has to be brought into question that where that money is actually being spent, and so a private consultancy firm, they also did an audit of those state boards, and there are more than ten boards who didn't want to cooperate with the audit in the first place, right? And it was all happening when the COA was part of the BCCI. So I mean, you don't know where that 70% chunk of BCCI's revenue is going, because the state associations, they hardly do their own audit. Even the Mumbai Cricket Asso- Association, where the current treasurer of the BCCI is hailing from, even they haven't done a proper audit since 2017 2018. सो अगर 22 लाख का बनाना खरीदा जा रहा है एंड 35 लाख का बॉटल खरीदा जा रहा है, सो आई मीन यू कैन गेट अ सेंस कि वेयर दैट एक्चुअल मनी इज गोइंग. एंड द प्रॉब्लम इज दैट कि बिकॉज एवरीवन इज part of that white collar crime, I would call it, and everyone is having fun, so there is no one to actually ask or question it in the first place. And even people like Sharda Ugra, when they write these articles, I mean, they don't become a big news, right? Like people like me and Paji would talk about it, and some people on Twitter would talk about it. But the problem is, it is not getting a front page coverage on our major media places, right? So it's a matter of big concern that 70% of BCCI's revenue is we
is
don't know where it is
completely
going.
is completely unaccounted for. I just want
Yeah,
to share a couple of instances from that article. Uh, that that audited report found out that, uh, I mean, it was there in the article that, using those funds, using the funds that were given to the state association, some houses were bought. The land at which a stadium was to be made, it was still harvesting crops. And like you mentioned about Uttarakhand, in Uttarakhand, the daily players were getting a daily allowance of rupees 100, which is something that as per the government of Uttarakhand is the minimum wage for unskilled labor. So that's how bad the things have been.
yeah,
And Pranav Anand comes up with an with an interesting observation about the Uttarakhand cricket board, because this is something that happened there. I mean, one direct negative consequence of political influence on cricket is communal divide. Look at the example of Wasim Jafar. He suggested something that should be a basic norm, but was accused of discriminating on the basis of religion. The guy served Indian cricket selflessly for so long. Yes, that was very sad. And that article mentions about that too. That I'm forgetting the name of of the few people that were involved in it. I'll just have to open it up. And yeah, just by the way, as per the article, the Cricket Association of Uttarakhand secretary, who was Mahim Verma, who accused Wasim Jafar of this, he's also the same official who's been accused of taking let me just read this out. Verma is the same official who has been charged with threatening an India under 19 player and trying to extract money from his father. So there is that. Chuchan says on top of that, Wasim Jafar is a very nice and a humble person. I wouldn't really know that uh, because I haven't met him personally, but I don't know about that. Rohan Patil says, Paji, aren't there sexual assault cases in big companies making 1 billion revenue when there is money and there will be these things? Yes, there are. Because, you can't expect all people in an organization to be well behaved and to be following the basic laws of the place. And, there will be outliers for sure. But the problem begins when you don't want to acknowledge this problem. Now, what is happening is that at the junior levels of women's cricket in the country, there have been complaints about it, and there has not been any action being taken on this, and things are being brushed under the carpet. BCCI is not responsible if an individual is committing such a crime, or is being charged with this. But BCCI becomes responsible when they turn a blind eye towards it, or when they don't want to take action on it. And this is just one case. We still don't know what happened when while playing for Baroda, or when both Deepak Hooda and Kunal Pandya were playing for Baroda, when they had a fight. What really happened between those two? We really don't know what has happened, because when there's a fight and it gets covered in the entire media, I personally believe that the board which runs the sport in the country, they should step in and set up an inquiry. But nothing happened. There has not been any inquiry into the Jafar incident as well. So that becomes a bigger problem. See, I agree, it is not easy for any one individual who's running an organization to be in control of whatever is happening where. But when something is brought to your notice, try and take cognizance of it and act on it rather than brushing under the carpet. My bigger problem is that things get brushed under the carpet. Okay, Gaurav, there's the question that has been come up for you from Pranav Anand, and I just want to let you know that since you are on our shows for the very first time, Pranav attends all of our shows. He will ask the most questions, and a lot of those questions really make sense are very insightful. So he's asked, since Gaurav is here, who understands BCCI admin at a deeper level than most, I would like to ask him what minimal number of fundamental changes would he bring in to order in order to resurrect. This is see one thing. I don't think anyone can really understand the BCCI admin. There are posts, but all of it is just like everyone is everyone's friend because they want to keep the whole thing together, right? So and when the Supreme Court has not been able to do a lot of things, it's very difficult for an individual like Gaurav or for me uh, to suggest changes. But still, if if Gaurav you wanted to say hand out two or three suggestions which could make things better, what would they be?
Yeah, I mean, as you said, I mean, like it's and after like getting to see what the BCCI has been doing for so long, you become so cynical with the system. It's hard for you to see hope in the way they function actually, and to hope for change in the first place. But if I want one thing to change from their side, and it was something which was mentioned in the Lodha committee report as well, there should be a clear separation between the professionals who handle the day-to-day jobs, like the scheduling of the World Cup for that matter, and the governance of the BCCI, which is handled by the Apex Council, which has the president, the secretary, and the treasurer, right? So when there are two different people and they are handling two different jobs, which is their specialty, they'll eventually do well. So at least what will not happen is that the matches will happen on time, the money would be given to players on time, and we know that in the past that the women team hadn't got their money on time, or the domestic players, like when the 2020 and the 2021 domestic season was cancelled, they it took the BCCI like more than 4 or 5 months to pay their players like in the first place, right? So one thing I would want the BCCI to change is their day-to-day functioning. Like they can't be unprofessional when they are running such a big setup of cricket in India in the first place. And apart from that, man, I don't see any hope actually, because the BCCI at the moment is mirroring uh, the way the central government function, and because I mean the central government in a way is now in direct control, or they have a big say in the things at the BCCI. So I don't hope, or I don't see any major change happening in the governance of the BCCI, but they can make changes in the way they handle their day-to-day affairs, of course. Yeah.
Okay. If I were to give one suggestion, my suggestion would be that the financial audits of the state associations should happen at least once in a financial year, so that there are no financial discrepancies in the first place. And then I believe that there's a need for a players association in the board. Right now there is a players association, but it is only for retired cricketers, because I feel one thing that I think is really not done on the BCCI's part is that they're not even allowing players who have retired from international cricket or not playing any other domestic cricket apart from the IPL to not play them in leagues outside of India or outside of the IPL. And now they are going to bring in a cooling off period. So I feel, I really think this is not done, because you are attacking the livelihood of a cricketer. You are taking away that opportunity from them to earn that money. So I think there's a need for a players association. And when there would be a players association, these charges of cash for selection or sexual assault or sexual favors, I think they would be looked into far deeper. And these bodies should not really directly report to BCCI, because then it makes no difference, right? Uh, there's a reason why when there are issues in any corporate office, you report to the HR, and the HR is an independent body then between the two employees. So that should be something that should be there. Financial audits for me of each and every state association, including the BCCI. And then there should be, like I said, a body, a player's body, and maybe a separate body which looks after, or which protects players from sexual harassment or cases such as these. So I feel these bodies really need to come in the structure of Indian cricket to make things better, because at this point of time I don't think even players are someone who really have a lot of say. And they have also sort of become commodities for the board in a sense. Santosh Udappa goes on to say the current structure of BCCI, which is very tightly knit, would be separated if next Lok Sabha election has a surprise outcome. Disruption would come from the top, not bringing any political agenda. Hmm. Robin Kumar goes on to say, I was a ball boy in the 2011 World Cup in Mohali matches. As a 12-year ball boy, we were asked to arrive at 5:30 a.m. and we were allowed to leave only after the first innings. We were given two bananas and two sandwiches. That's harsh.
Very harsh.
Uh, Fans, Chuchan says fans need to criticize team and administration when India loses the World Cup. The approach shouldn't only be directed towards the players but also to admins. I'm not really sure how administration can be directly responsible in a few things, but yes, if we are talking of women's cricket, then yes, because the women's cricket team does not have a coach for last 8 months now. And Gaurav, you are someone who follows women's cricket enough. You can shed a light on the issues that are there in women's cricket.
And I mean, like, of course, you talked about the fact that we don't have a head coach for 8 months, and the problem also comes is that they don't have their own coaching setup, which is separate from the National Cricket Academy, right? And what they do right now is that they bring the coaches from the National Cricket Academy only, and they do both the roles. They handle things at the camps also, and they also coach the team. So what needs to happen is that a long term contracts they need to be there, and also, I mean, because the WPL has started and there's a lot of money which is coming in, the BCCI can afford to bring in like some foreign coaches in the first place who specialize in women's cricket. I mean, yes, the skills are similar in both men and the women game, but at the end of the day, the way you handle players and the rhythm of the game is very very different. So you can't make men coaches come and directly work in the women's setup. There needs to be a pipeline for the coaching setup as well. So yeah.
Fair enough. Some conversation is happening between Santosh Uduppa and Pranav Anand about the effect of uh, the effect of politics in BCCI. But I just want to say that uh, people sometimes want to say that, oh, let's not mix sports with politics or anything else with politics, but I believe that politics in itself is a function of many things in the society, and hence politics will directly impact the sports and everything else that is in there in the society. I don't think these things can ever be separated, whether it's an administrative point of view or or the other things which are related to it. We have seen history where athletes have themselves taken political stances. So I just don't think that these things, you can ever separate the two entirely. I don't think it can ever happen. Uh, in some cases it would be good, in some cases it would be bad, and then that good and bad can also come down to the individual politics that a person will support, like people like us. So I think that is something that we really can't control, but what we can really have a conversation on right now is that what all things can make the board structurally better, for so that the fans are better served, so that players have more control over what they want to do, and they are also protected. uh, Now, Gaurav, thank you for your time. You've really gone deep into a lot of issues and helped me explain this, because you know the amount of information that is there. It's not easy to,
Yeah.
just share it all of a sudden, because there are numbers involved, there are 38 associations, there is a name involved. So thank you so much, Gaurav, for coming on to this show. I really hope to see you a lot on this show, especially when we are discussing something like women's cricket, uh, because you are someone who really watches it quite well. And any other piece that you're working on currently that you want to let the viewers know, that you'd be, they could keep an eye out on?
Yeah, so I'm gonna do a feature on Ishan also, like very soon. So it would be out by tomorrow morning. So I would love like if people could go on and read that. And it was a great fun to be on the show today.
Just
Uh, so thanks a lot for having me, Paji.
just one last thing before you go. You could let our viewers know where can they follow you on social media, so that if they really want to see your work and discuss cricket with you, which is the place that they can reach you out on.
So on X or Twitter, I am at the rate Crick underscore beyond underscore ENT, and on Instagram, it's Gaurav Nandan 1998 is my username. So all of you, like, if you want, you can go and check out that. So yeah,
Thank you so much, Gaurav. It was great having you here. I'll now, go back and
for
take
sure, for
the
sure.
questions that are there. And we look forward to the piece that you'd be doing. Thank you so much.
Bye bye.
Chuchand says, Paji, agree politics will be a part of sports, but sports is a result driven industry. Fans are the ultimate stakeholders. Fans should have the power to throw BCCI admins out of power. In an ideal world, yes, but that's not how things work out, because BCCI, for starters, isn't a government organization on paper. It's also an organization that doesn't pay taxes, and we've done a video on that. You can check that out. It's a very good explainer on why is BCCI exempt from paying taxes. You can go to our YouTube channel and search this. Uh, I just want to showcase the few comments that came in, and uh, the conversation that was happening between Pranav and Santosh Uttappa. Pranav says, as long as there's political involvement in BCCI in long term, there won't be much change. All politicians crave power, irrespective of the party. And then Santosh goes on to agree and says, yes, any government coming to power wants to have a call on BCCI actions, because it's a big business in India. But as long as member of political party doesn't head the BCCI, it is less impacting. So the these are uh, these are the views of few of our viewers. To those who have just joined in, I would just like you to ask that please like the video, press subscribe, and if you want to watch a lot more of content by cricket.com, please subscribe to our channel. You can follow us on Instagram at cricket.com underscore official. On Twitter or X, we are there as We Are Cricket. We are also there on Facebook, so please do follow us. Today there's a break because of no Asia Cup matches, so there isn't a preview and a review video. Tomorrow there will be another feature coming out. Saturday we will be doing the preview and the review, and on Sunday we'll be doing the preview, mid innings show, and the review show. Provided the weather stays good enough for us to get matches. There's a huge question mark on the weather side of things in Sri Lanka right now, specifically in Colombo, where the matches are going to happen. Uh, so yeah, there's there. Pranavan says, I just realized he's Gaurav Nandan Tripathi. Lol, when he mentioned cricket beyond entertainment, I have been following him on SM for more than a year. Good, Pranav. He did actually introduce himself. You probably came in late into the show, but any other question that you guys want to ask or share an experience, I'm happy to take questions on the team related combinations if you want to ask me that. But the motive of today's show was to do something different and to have a conversation, like how Gaurav mentioned, on a subject which isn't really touched upon by a lot of media houses. It's not really touched upon by a lot of sports website as well. And this is something that we wanted to touch upon because uh, somewhere, as a cricket fan myself, I felt the pain that others have had in terms of not being able to book tickets. So there is that, and Gaurav is someone who really does his research well. And yeah, I mean, we really thought that this is a topic which is worth discussing. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I'll be staying around for a minute or two more if you have any more questions. Been doing this now for 15 minutes, so I'm also tired. But yeah, I personally like doing this topic. I don't know if you guys did. If you didn't, you really want to, you could leave your feedback. Uh, Santosh Udappa says, "How can domestic matches viewing experience could be made better in India?" Excellent question. I believe that the funds that state associations get, they should really stream the matches on their YouTube channels, because that is what the counties in England do. Not all matches are telecast on TV, but when the blast is happening, the counties are themselves showcasing the matches on their YouTube channel. So that is something that should really be done if Hotstar can't do it. Chuchan says, Paji, do you know the concept of sports washing? Are Mota by using BCCI for that, just like Saudi are doing it in football? I know the concept, and I'm really not sure that they are doing it through the BCCI, because BCCI is still getting a lot of criticism for it. Chuchan, since you've been asking a lot of questions on this, I would really recommend. I don't know if you've read that article or not. Please do read that article. It's a long article. You'll get a lot of your questions that you've been asking on this show through that article, and you'd really like that. Trust me. Please do read that article. Pranav says, Paji Rahul didn't keep wickets today, just batted. Is there any chance of Ishan and Rahul both playing as they had said in the PC? If it happens, who sits out? Can't be a year he's coming from injury. Uh, I don't know. If Iyer is not sitting out, then Shubman Gill could sit out with the Ishan Kishan opening. Probably that's something that they can look at. That allows them to have a left-hander in the top five or top six. So I don't know if they'll do that. Uh, but if that happens, there is going to be a lot of debate on social media for sure. I think that we are done for the questions for today. Uh, but thank you so much for tuning in to this show. And you can follow me on GillyCricket on Instagram. On Twitter, I'm there as Gurkirat as Gil. Uh, so you can follow me there. Santosh goes on to ask another follow-up question, but in red ball cricket, covering for multiple days would be tough for individual teams on YouTube, right? Not really, because the venue doesn't change, and the home association can do that. You just have to set up a two or a three camera setup and then do that. Counties are doing it. uh, they do telecast 4-day games, so it's all about setting up the infra for it. Once you set up the cameras, then you can do the streaming over 3 days or 4 days. uh, Cricket South Africa do it. I remember ahead of India's tour to South Africa in 21-22, India A played a series versus South Africa A, and it was live on their YouTube channel, so it can happen. Santosh Udappa says, thanks for answering questions patiently. No problem. Thank you so much, Santosh, for always tuning into all the shows that we do. It's really good that the likes of you, Chuchant, Pranavanand, all of you guys keep tuning into every show that we do, regardless it's me or Nikhil, Avnish, and Akshay, or when it's Somesh. Uh, it's something that we really enjoy, and that is something that we strive to do. We really want to build a community wherein people are looking forward to our shows. They are happy to share their own views and thoughts and ask questions. Sometimes you may not have the answers of all of your questions immediately, but we will try to answer them eventually, given the tools that we have at our disposal. Some things are some there would be some things that we won't be able to answer, but we will always try our best. And on that note, I would like to end the show and thank all of you who tuned in. uh, Good night, and do tune in on Saturday when we do the preview and the review show of the Asia Cup fixture. Thank you. Good night. Bye bye.